Hare Krishna, dear devotees, Dhanvat Pranam, Jai Shri Prabhupada. Please accept my humble obeisances. Thank you for joining. We'll start with some prayers. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapadkamlam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunathanvitam Satam Sajivam Sadhvetam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakaltarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedant Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desha Tarane Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langayate girim yatkripatamaham vande
Shri
Shri
Guru Dharanam
Parmanand Madhavam Krishna Chaitanya Ishwaram Gurve Gauri Chandraya Radhikaya Tadalaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tadbhaktaya Namo Namah Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare
Hare
Hare
Hare
Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hari Bol. Thank you everyone for joining. So we are reading the last chapter of Bhagavad Gita. It's called the conclusion or the perfection of renunciation. So in this chapter, Krishna is taking us through the entire knowledge, but in a very quick way. He's going through many different aspects of devotional service. So to come to devotional service or bhakti yoga, he has taken us through karma yoga. He talked about jnana yoga. He talked about the difference between sannyas and tyag. He talked about the influence of the three modes of material nature on different people, their knowledge, their intelligence, their activities, how their actions are influenced by the three modes. Just so that, before we come to bhakti yoga, we can be perfectly situated in knowledge, because it's hard to practice love or devotion unless you are, number one, in control of your senses, control of your mind. Number two, unless you're in control of this unlimited desires to enjoy this world, unless you are detached a little bit from this world and its various situations and circumstances that happen externally around you, it's very hard to practice love and devotion unless those things happen. And number three, he talks us about the effects of three modes of material nature on all these knowledge, intelligence, action, activities. So we can understand why things are happening around us, why people are behaving in a certain way, what is their thinking, thought process, why are we behaving in a certain way. So we can be situated in perfect knowledge and be of steady mind, steady intelligence, with a lot of control on this body that we have received. So basically, he gives us the knowledge of the externals, so that once we can reconcile those externals, this body, senses, mind, material nature, people around us, relationships, circumstances, situations, all these things around us, once we can deal with them, once we understand what is going on around us, then we can be internally fixated on Krishna, we can be internally fixated on developing our divine consciousness. So we have to come away from the influence of externals, focus more internally, and develop this, purify this consciousness, and so that it can bloom, it can blossom into this unlimited, eternal spiritual consciousness, which is right now very contaminated. So that's why Krishna gives us all this knowledge of various processes and various aspects of the world around us. Now we have come to the point of Bhakti Yoga, and Krishna is saying such people that are situated on this platform are already liberated because they are in full knowledge. They don't have too many desires, they don't have too many hankerings or limitations from this world, they don't have too many expectations. And so they are not easily discouraged or disappointed. They are very well situated, very stable minded, steady people. And these people are more internally fixated, so they are more joyful. And so Krishna is now giving us the path of Bhakti Yoga. He is now taking us to the point of surrendering to Him. So your consciousness is already so advanced that it is not involved in the petty aspects of this world. It is there is an analogy given. Imagine, so we are all adults. Let's say your kids are playing a video game, and in the game you see 3, 4 kids are playing. They are very immersed, completely immersed in the video game. So they are fighting with each other. They are like, oh, why did this happen? Then some kid starts fighting, and then they start arguing, and then somebody starts crying, and you see these games going on between the kids, and you realize that we have become adults, but now we're still playing games, we're still playing these video games, but at a different level now. We are also engaged in all these kind of petty skirmishes or squabbles or quarrels, but just now let's say with our spouse, or with the people at our job, or people in our community, or something like that. But regardless, just like that video game those kids are playing, it is immaterial, it does not matter, it is so insignificant. Similarly, all these things happening around us are not very significant, very important, but we give them too much importance, too much significance, and get really absorbed in them, get really immersed in them, just like the kids are. And so the Lord is looking down at us, just like we are looking down at those kids. Oh my God, why are they fighting? Why are they always crying and arguing with each other? Just make up, be happy, just listen to me. I will help you to become a good person. That's what you're thinking about your kids fighting. Similarly, the Lord is also looking down at our petty squabbles and skirmishes and these quarrels and hypocrisies and games that we play, and thinking, oh, why don't they just follow my instructions? Why are they so immersed in this world? This is very small, temporary. These things will go away. They'll be finished in a day, matter of few days or few weeks. You have a very short existence in this body. Make use of this human body. Why are you wasting it in such various externals? So in this way, we have to think that um, that the divine, the supreme, is calling to us for giving us instructions, giving us guidance, giving us love, giving us an eternal life full of complete knowledge, complete joy, and we don't have to be immersed in this world. We don't have to connect too much with this world. We should just connect as much as is needed to connect, but not more than that. And connect more internally with the Supreme Lord, and that is the process of Bhakti Yoga. So, with that, anybody has any questions from last few verses? In the last few verses, Krishna was telling Arjuna, I'll pull up just to review the translations of last few verses. We read till 60. Krishna was telling Arjuna that you should engage in this warfare because that's your quality, that's your talent, that's the skill you have. Give me 1 second. Give me 1 second. So he says, since that's your skill, that's your talent, you don't immerse, if you don't use that talent according to my instruction, then you will still be fighting, but you will fight for a wrong cause, maybe. You will fight maybe for a dharma. So fight now under my instructions, my guidance, for my pleasure, for establishing dharma. Can everyone mute themselves, please? And then please unmute when you're ready to share or ask any questions. Okay. So then, so this is what he was urging Arjuna, that please become conscious of me. Mat chitta sarva durgani mat prasadat tarishyasi. And then you will pass over all the obstacles. Don't give in to your false ego. So false ego is what makes us get immersed in this world. So there are two aspects. There is Krishna, there is Maya. Okay. When we listen to our false ego or bodily conception of Maya, of bodily conception of false ego, we are basically surrendering to Maya, which is basically darkness or ignorance. The other aspect is Krishna, which is all knowledge, all love, all bliss. So if we get out of this false conception of body, false ego, and just hear to Krishna, listen to his instructions, his guidance, then that is called surrender to Krishna, and we are depending on him to help us. And that's called taking surrender or shelter of Krishna. So it is said, a very beautiful verse in Chaitanya Charitamrita that says, Krishna Surya Sama Maya Haya Andhakara, Jaha Krishna Taha Nahi Mayara Adhikara. That Krishna is like sun, and Maya Haya Andhakara. Maya is like darkness. Jaha Krishna, taha nahi Mayara Adhikara. So where there is Krishna, there is no role, there is no jurisdiction, no authority of Maya or bodily conception of life or false ego. But if you decide to put yourself in the hands of your false ego, your small-minded intelligence, your small logics and small bodily perceptions, then you will be lost. So he gives us, being our well-wisher, he gives us a fair warning because he's our best friend, he's our best teacher, he's our father and mother. So he's supreme well-wisher. Suhrida Sarvabhutanam, Krishna says. So he's stopping us from going on the wrong road. And Arjun is trying to take the wrong path. He's trying to run away from the dharma, which is the wrong path. This is a beautiful poem that one of the English authors wrote, Robert Frost. He said, the road not taken, two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. So it is very hard to surrender to Krishna. It is very hard to follow Krishna's guidance and instruction sometimes. The path of dharma, the path of giving up false ego, giving up Maya, giving up the bodily conception can be very hard, but it is a road less taken. It is a road less traveled, and that has made all the difference. So the devotees travel that road that leads to Krishna, not the one that goes into the dark woods of Maya. So he says in the last two verses that if you do not act according to my direction, if you do not fight, then you will be falsely directed. So you still have the skill set, you still have the propensity of warfare, but you will be wrongly engaged. So you will still be engaging in warfare at some point of life, but it will not be pleasing to me. It will not be under my jurisdiction, under my authority. So it's up to you whether you decide to follow my direction or give in to your false ego. So he says, compelled by the work born of your own nature, you will act all the same, O son of Kunti. So we will all act according to our swabhav that has been given, the swabhav that we have honed over this lifetime, that we have developed. We have developed certain skill sets, certain talents. It's best to use them in service of Krishna rather than to waste them or use them for adharma. So till this point, anybody has any questions? And then we will move on to the next few verses. Next verse is a memory verse. And then
Hare Krishna Mataji, I just have, I just need a little bit clarity on the four things that we talked about last class, right? The Purusharth, Dharma, Arth, Kam, and Moksha. And then above all these four, the Bhakti, devotional service comes. So, those four principles, I don't know, how do you call it in English? Purusharth, where, do we categorize under the duty? And then the Bhakti yoga comes under the, what do we say, our constitutional position. Is it how I should understand? Or
yes, Mataji. Yeah, the four Purusharthas, Dharma, Arth, Kam, Moksha, are established by to run this material world. They're established by Lord, but they are established to run this material world for the proper functioning of this world. So in this world, these are the four things people engage in. So they practice dharma. Dharma means to perform certain rituals according to Vedas, to perform certain, follow certain rules and restrictions, so that you become very conducive to earn wealth for the economic development or artha. So, for example, you will pray to certain demigods so that there is proper, prosperity in the kingdom, so that there is proper rains, there is no famine. In this way, the king will be able to maintain the kingdom because he's paying gratitude to all the powerful forces like demigods. And then he's also following according to dharma certain rules and restrictions. For example, we talked about marriage being a rule, or not eating meat or alcohol is one of the rules that we follow. So like that, you follow certain regulative principles according to dharma, so that we become very conducive to perform, to maintain economy of this world. Then we are very active in this world. We are earning wealth, and with that wealth, the world runs. That is artha. With that wealth, now people enjoy themselves. People fulfill their sense gratification. That's called kam, fulfilling their desires in this world. So to bhog is dunya mein bhog karna. That is called kam. So then they enjoy the kam. So with the wealth they earn, they enjoy the kam. And then finally, either in the old age or after their desires are frustrated in this world, they realize that this world is not the best place for them. This is not their original position. And then they start working towards liberation. So for that also they do many type of austerities or charities or sacrifices or penances and things like that. So that's moksha. So dharma, arth, kam, moksha. But bhakti is described, or love for the Lord does not come under any of these four things. It does not even come under dharma, because dharma is also a principle that's used to maintain this world. It's but the it's more like following the Vedic rules and rituals, just like we read in that story of Brahmanas, how they were so busy maintaining, performing that sacrifice according to the Vedas because they wanted elevation to heavenly planets, or some people do yagyas for prosperity of the kingdom, or they want some kids or something like that. So that's how dharma is practiced by people in the material world, and the world runs like that. But that at least shows that they have some servitude to an higher power. That's why dharma is being performed. But dharma should be performed. So we are always told by Krishna in the entire Bhagavad Gita, we should perform some dharmic activities which purify us, which purify everything that we do. So that's why we do charity, sacrifices, yagyas, things like that. Now, prema, Krishna prema, is different. Krishna prema or bhakti yoga, devotional service, those are the constitutional position, like you said. That is an internal matter. That is not a matter of maintaining this material world. That is basically to go back to the Supreme Lord. So your understanding is correct, Mataji? Does that answer?
Yes, Mataji. So basically, we have to have the balance of both, right? Like here, Krishna is instructing Arjun to do the duty, the material duty, as well as the constitutional duty, right? So
Mataji, when you become a devotee, let's say in your position, I'm talking specifically about, let's say you, or the devotees, we don't separate material and spiritual that much. Everything that a devotee does becomes spiritual. So it's not like when Arjun is engaging in this war here, he's performing his duty. This is like a material duty he's performing. No, this is an act of bhakti yoga for the Supreme Lord. So actually, there is no distinction between material and spiritual for the. I'm just going to mute because थोड़ा disturbance आता है बीच में, ठीक है? Just for 1 minute. So, so devotees इतना material और spiritual में distinction नहीं करते, because everything that is material, they use that for the pleasure of Krishna. So everything becomes spiritual for them. So we don't have to, I know that devotees, when we are learning this lingo, this language of constitutional and conditional and functional and all this, or material and spiritual, we use this, but this is mostly used as a language to understand the concepts. But when living this concept, we don't have to separate these things, because when you go for your profession, you are doing that as a service to Krishna. So everything has become spiritual for you. When you are taking care of your loved ones, your husband, your kids, your parents, your kitchen, your cooking food, everything has become an act of devotional service. So we don't have to, but while preaching or while talking to separate the concepts, yes, you can use that lingo. But for your internal application in your life, you don't have to separate these so much, because anything you do has become an act of bhakti yoga. So fighting this war is not karma yoga for Arjun. This is an act of bhakti yoga. He's doing it as a surrender to Krishna, depending on him for guidance, instructions, for his love. Is that understandable, Madhuri?
Yes, Mataji. Thank you so much. Yep.
Thank you for asking nice questions. You're enhancing the flavor of our discussions. Thank you. And please, everybody, feel free to ask questions, because that is what actually helps to progress. That is what removes our doubts and improves our faith. So we are very skeptical in this world. We take everything with a pinch of salt, even Krishna's words. We are so used to taking everything with a pinch of salt that even Krishna's words we start taking with a pinch of salt. That is not surrender. So when you see yourself doing that, please ask those questions. That will help you improve the faith. It will make the practices easier. When rest of the week, when we are not hearing, or when we are just going about our jobs and our various duties, we will be able to apply this better. The practice will become easier. Okay, let's start reading. We'll read 61 and 62 together. This is a very important verse. Some of you may have memorized it. So let's start. Bhagavad Gita 18.61. Ishvara sarva bhutanam. Ishvara
ईश्वरः सर्वभूतानां
हृदेशे अर्जुन तिष्ठति.
हृदेशे अर्जुन
अर्जुन
तिष्ठति
तिष्ठति. ब्राह्मण सर्वभूतानि.
ब्राह्मयन् सर्वभूतानि
यन्त्रारूढानि मायया.
यन्त्रारूढानि
मायया. I'm just going to give a quick Sanskrit, and then let's recite. If more people can recite, 3 to 5 people, that'll be nice, and try to memorize this. So, Ishvara Sarva Bhutanam. Ishwar in all the living entities. Sarva Bhutanam. Bhut means living entities. So, Sarva Bhutanam. It's not talking about humans. It's not talking about animals. It's talking about all living entities, whether plants, animals, demigods, Devi, Devta, humans, any people on any other planets. It's talking about all entities. Ishvara Sarva Bhutanam. Riddeshe Arjun Tishtati. O Arjuna, Tishtati means he lives, रहते हैं. कहाँ पे? In the Riddeshe. Hriday means heart. Deshe means in the region of the heart, in the location of the heart. So Ishwar resides in the area of the heart in all living entities. Brahmayan Sarva Bhutani, and he moves all the living entities. He causes them to move. He moves all living entities like a yantra, or like a machine, as if being placed on a machine under the spell of Maya. So, Ishvara Sarva Bhutanam Hrideshe Arjun Tishtati. So, he lives inside the heart of all living entities, and from within, he moves all the living entities like a machine under the spell of Maya. Brahmayan Sarva Bhutani, Sabhi, all living entities. Yantra Arudani Mayaya. So let's recite. Can few more devotees recite? Try to fit it in the brain, memorize it.
Mataji, I can do it.
Yes, ma'am.
Hari Bol. Ishvara Sarva Bhutanam.
ईश्वर सर्वभूतानां
Haradeshe Arjuna Tishtati.
हृदेशे अर्जुन
Arjuna
तिष्ठति
Tishtati. Brahmayan Sarva Bhutani.
ब्राह्मयन् सर्वभूतानि
Yantra Arudani Mayaya.
यन्त्रारूढानि मायया.
Very good. Anyone else wants to recite?
Can I
I
do it,
can go.
Mataji?
Yes, Raghu Prabhu, Rekha Mataji, please go ahead, one after another.
ईश्वरः सर्वभूतानां
Ishvara
Ishvara
Sarva
Sarvabhutanam
Bhutanam
हृदेशो अर्जुन तिष्ठति
Hrideshe
Hridayeshe
Arjun
Arjun
Hridayeshe Arjuna
Tishtati
Tishtati
भ्रामयान् सर्वभूतानि
Brahmayan
Brahmayan
Sarva
Brahmayan
Bhutani
Sarvabhutani
यन्त्रारूढानि मायया
Yantra
Yantra
Rudani
Yantra
Rudani Maya.
Mayaya.
Arudani Mayaya.
Okay, very bold. Rekha Mataji, you wanted to say?
Yes, Mataji. Ishvara Sarvabhutanam
Ishvara
Ishvara
Sarva
Sarvabhutanam
Bhutanam
Vriddadesi Arjuna Tishtati
Hrideshe
Hridayeshe
Arjun
Arjun Tishtati
Tishtati
Brahmayan Sarvabhutani
Brahmayan
Brahmayan
Sarva Bhutani
Sarvabhutani
Yantra Rudhani Mayaya.
Yantra
Yantra
Rudani
Rudani
Mayaya.
Maya.
Haribol.
Okay, anybody else?
I
Yes,
can go
Hari.
next, Mataji.
Okay,
Chalo.
yes. Anita Mataji, then Mama, and then we can start.
Ishvara sarvabhutanam
Ishvara
Ishvara
Sarva
ईश्वरः
Sarvabhutanam
सर्वभूतानां
Bhutanam
hrideshe Arjuna tishtati
Hrideshe
Hridayeshe
Arjuna
Arjun
Hriday
Tishtati
Tishtati
Arjuna Tishtati
brahmayan sarvabhutani
Brahmayan
Brahmayan
Sarva
Sarvabhutani
Bhutani
Sarvabhutani
yantrarudhani mayaya.
Yantra
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 Rudani
Rudani
Rudhani
Mayaya.
Maya.
Mayaya.
Very nice.
Ishara Sarva Bhutanam
Ishvara
Ishvara
Sarva
Sarvabhutanam
Bhutanam
Hirdadesh Arjuna Tishtati
Hrideshe
Hridayeshe
Arjun
Arjun
Arjuna
Tishtati
तिष्ठति
Tishtati
Brahmanan Sarva Bhutani
Brahmayan
Brahmayan
Sarva
Sarvabhutani
Bhutani
सर्वभूतानि
Yantra Rudhani Mayaya.
Yantra
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 Rudani
Rudani
Rudhani
Mayaya.
Maya.
Mayaya.
Who can recite from memory? If you have memorized just now. Yes, Raghu Prabhu.
no, sorry.
Anybody wants to try? We can help if you forget, but that's how you will memorize. Rekha Mataji, you trying?
I am trying. Yeah.
Go ahead. You want to speak?
Ishvara Sarvabhutanam
Ishvara Sarva
Ishvara
Bhutanam
Sarvabhutanam
Hridaya Desi Arjuna Tishtati
Hridayeshe
Hrideshe
Arjun
Arjun
Tishtati
Tishtati
Brahmana Sarvabhutani
Brahmayan
Brahmayan
Sarva Bhutani
Sarvabhutani
uh,
Yantra
Yantra Arudhani
Nani
Mayaya.
Yantra
Yantra
Rudani
Rudani
यन्त्ररूढानि
Mayaya.
Maya.
मायया
Very bold. Very bold. 3 times very bold. Mataji.
Rebol.
Very nice. Okay. See, it's not that hard. You can memorize. Actually, if you see, Bhagavad Gita verses are easier to memorize because they have just 3 words in each line. So that's like 12 words to remember. Okay. So let's recite the next one also, and then we can read the translations. 18.62. Tameva sharanam gaccha. Tameva
Tameva
sharanam
Sharanam
gaccha.
Gaccha
Sarvabhavena Bharata.
Sarvabhavena
Sarvabhavena
Bharata
Bharata.
भारता
Tat prasadat param shantim. Tat
Tat
prasadat
Prashadat
param
Param
shantim.
Shantim
Sthanam prapasyasi shashwatam. Sthanam
Tanam
स्थानं
prapsyasi
Prapashyasi
प्राप्स्यसि
shashwatam.
Shashwatam.
शाश्वतम्
Okay, who wants to read 61 and then 62?
You can read. Hare Krishna. The Supreme Lord is situated in everyone's heart, O Arjuna, and is directing the wanderings of all living entities, who are seated on as on a machine made of the material energy.
You want to read the next one too?
Sure. O Scion of Bharata, surrender unto him utterly. By his grace, you will attain transcendental peace and the supreme and eternal abode.
Very good. So this verse is saying, so both of these verses we took together. Looks like somebody's drawing on the screen, underlining. That's very nice. Actually, that's how we should read Bhagavad Gita. We should underline, we should highlight, we should write in the margins our realizations, and yeah, like
This
a
has to be
textbook.
your screen, right? That is your screen is the one that we are seeing.
No, somebody.
Okay.
That's fine. I like it. Makes it look like we're reading really hard. Okay, so in this verse, so these two verses, what are they saying? The Supreme Lord is situated in everyone's heart, O Arjuna, and is directing the wanderings of all living entities. So we talked about this. Supreme Lord situated in everyone's heart. So where is in the second chapter, Krishna told us, where is the soul located in this body? So the soul is trapped in this body. Where is the soul trapped in this body? In the area of the heart. And similarly, the Supreme Lord or the Parmatma, Ishvara, is also situated next to the soul. So the soul is the Jiva or the spirit soul. Anuatma, Anu means small, so small Atma is called Anuatma, whereas the Paramatma is situated next to the Anuatma. So the super soul is sitting next to the spirit soul. So the super soul is the Vibhu Atma, which is infinite, which has no beginning or end. It is unlimited. And that Parmatma, that Vibhu Atma, is sitting next to the spirit soul, to the Jivatma, in the area of the heart in this body. So, and then the verse is saying he is directing from within the activities of the heart as if seated on a machine made of the material energy. Then Krishna is saying that surrender unto him utterly, and by his grace you will attain peace and supreme and eternal abode. So let's dissect these two verses. So first of all, understand Parmatma. Last class we talked about three aspects of the Supreme Lord. The Brahman aspect, which is the light or Brahma Jyoti coming from the body of the Lord. The Parmatma, which is localized within each and every living entities that this verse is talking about. And then the Bhagwan. So Brahman, Parmatma, Bhagwan. Bhagwan is the supreme personality of Godhead. He's a personality. He's a person who is always situated in his abode, in his dham, and is doing leelas there, forever enjoying there with his associates. And sometimes when he wants, he comes down to engage in relationships with devotees in the material world. So that is the Bhagwan. So there are three aspects: Brahman, Parmatma, Bhagwan. Right now we are talking about the Parmatma aspect of the absolute truth. The Param Satya, the Supreme Lord, absolute truth, has three aspects, and we are talking about the Parmatma aspect, which is a localized aspect situated within our heart or next to in the heart, next to the spirit soul. So some of the things to understand about Parmatma. Parmatma, if you see, we are living in this body, the soul, the Jivatma is living in this body for a very short period of time. Then it will leave this body and take another body. So now the question is the Parmatma going with the spirit soul in that body also? Yes. So if I go into a body of an insect or a cat or a plant or a bird or a fish, whatever, the super soul, Parmatma, will travel with that Jivatma into that next body. So Parmatma is so merciful. Nobody else can travel with you. Your loved ones, your spouse, your parents, your child, your best friend, whoever you think, you depend on, your doctor, your lawyer, your insurance agent, whoever you depend on, your policeman, they won't go with you. Nobody can accompany you. But the only person that accompanies you is the Parmatma, who will go to the next body. And when I go to the next body, I'm going to forget what happened in this body. I'm going to forget who was Natasha Gupta, what was her job, what was her gender, what were her activities. Oh, I will forget. So the Jivatma is forgetful. Jivatma is very small, very tiny. And Parmatma is unlimited. He's the super soul has no beginning or end. So he is complete knower. but he will not forget. So when I go to the next body, he will remember everything and I will forget. Now, this forgetfulness is also a mercy of the Lord, because we are eternal beings. And if we continue to remember activity of every single body, it will be too overwhelming for us. We will not be able to live with ourselves knowing that we have committed so many crimes or so many sinful activities in the past lives, past bodies, or if we were very rich before and now we have become very poor, it'll be very difficult to live in that particular body. So actually, Krishna, by his mercy, gives us forgetfulness so that we can carry on some activities in this next body and try to purify ourselves, especially if it is a human body. So he lives in all living entities, number one. Number two, he does not forget, we forget. Number three, he directs the wanderings of the living entities. So he gives us guidance and instructions from within. So that is why we have to be more internally situated, not externally. Because if you look for guidance or instructions outside from this world, then you will get a very limited understanding. You will get, let's say I'm talking to my husband for instruction or guidance. He will only give me knowledge based on his limited understanding, his experience within this body only. And he has no understanding of, let's say, past or future, does not know what the future holds. And also based on his limited experience, he'll give me understanding. And it's possible it may be biased understanding, it may be biased based on some ulterior motive that other person may have. And so that way we will be guided. So that guidance is neither very complete and may also be actually very wrong, especially if it is a materially directed person. If it is a person who's very bodily oriented, very much in false ego, then that person will guide based on his bodily conception of life, which is not a very, a good guidance to take. So that's why we need to be, yes, we should take guidance. So we should take guidance from people that you really think are your well-wishers, number one. But the best person is not only just a well-wisher, but a well-wisher who's spiritually oriented, well-wisher who is not in the bodily conception of life. So that spiritually oriented well-wisher can actually from outside guide you. That's called a sadhu or a Vaishnav or a devotee can guide you. And from internally, you can take guidance from Parmatma. The problem with us is that we are very much covered by the ignorance and illusion. So we cannot hear the voice of Parmatma clearly. But the more we keep purifying ourselves, the more we keep connecting to the Lord, the more we chant his names and try to purify ourselves, the voice of Parmatma can be heard more and more. It can be heard more and more clearly, and it will come through to us. We will be able to perceive Parmatma within us and be able to get his guidance and instructions. But let's say we are talking about a completely bhogi person who's very much in false ego, very much in bodily conception, just immersed in this world and just wants to enjoy this world or just wants to cater to this world only. Then Paramatma, what does he do? He sits inside next to the jiva, like two birds. The analogy is given. Imagine on a tree, on a branch, there are two birds sitting. One bird is eating the fruits, so the bhogi jiva is eating the fruits, and the other bird is just watching him as a witness. So the Paramatma then just watches over our activities. He does not influence our activities. He can give some guidance, but the other bird will not take it because he's not able to hear the voice very well. So he will just keep on eating the fruits of that tree, and the Paramatma will just act as a witness. I mentioned some points here. This verse is very similar to one of the other verses that's quoted in chapter 15.15. I'll open that verse for you. You can see how that same concept that we just talked about is mentioned there also by Krishna. And then there are more verses that talk about the same point. But these are the two very famous ones. So here in 15.15 also, the Purushottam Yoga, we were reading this chapter every day in reciting this chapter every day in Purushottam month. This Krishna says, Sarvasya chaham riddhi sannivishto matta smritir jnanam apohanam cha vedescha sarve rahamev vedyo Vedant krid ved eva chaham. So the first part of this verse is relevant to us, where he says, Sarvasya chaham riddhi sanivishto. Sarvasya. In the all living entities, I reside in their heart. Matta smritir jnanam apohanam cha. I give the smriti or remembrance. Jnanam, the knowledge. Apohanam, the forgetfulness. So the forgetfulness that I was talking about, that also Krishna gives. How we say time heals everything. How we say eventually we forget the bad things that happen to us. Slowly we start forgetting. We start losing those things from our memory. That also is apohanam. Forgetfulness also comes from Krishna. So forgetfulness can also be a tool. For example, it is said in Mahabharata, Karna had taken a vow to kill Arjuna. He wanted to kill Arjuna. Every day he would get out, he would come out to the war thinking, today I will kill Arjuna. Today I'm going to kill Arjuna. And Parmatma, it is said that Krishna or Parmatma seated within the heart of Karna would make him forget every single day. Every single day, Karna will forget that agenda of killing Arjuna. So he'll fight the war with all these other warriors and just forget about killing Arjuna until the time is right for him to face Arjuna. So that apohanam, that forgetfulness, can also be a tool. Sometimes we think, I'm trying to say something and I forget. So that is also given by, that forgetfulness is also given by Krishna. After Krishna left, Arjuna forgot the use of Gandiv. So that Gandiv in which he's so trained for so many years, with which he won the war, he forgot how to use that skill. He forgot the use of Gandiv. So that forgetfulness, because that was the indication that it's time for you to retire now. So that apohanam, that forgetfulness, also comes from Krishna, and that is also his mercy. Smritir, the memory. Sometimes we have memories. That memory is also coming from Krishna, it's seated within our heart. Jnanam, the intelligence, the knowledge, also comes from him. So he says the same point in this verse also. So that is one of the things. Another point that I wanted to make about this is, so you understand the difference about Jivatma and Parmatma, Anuatma and Vibhuatma. That Parmatma is completely, he's unlimited, he is not forgetful, he is complete controller. Another thing is he's completely independent and controller. He's talking about his controlling aspect, that I control all the entities as if sitting on a machine. So this is the point. Now somebody can say, he is treating us like a machine, yantra rurani maya. Does that mean I have no control at all? Does that mean you're saying he's completely independent and complete controller. Does that mean I have no independence and no control over how this body works or what I do in this world? If he's controlling everything, then let's say I killed someone, then that was also caused by him. I slapped someone, I lied to someone, I cheated someone, I stole something. That is all caused by him, because he's the complete controller. He's the complete, I'm not independent, I'm his machine. So he's moving me like this and making these things happen. So he said that in this verse. So somebody can distort that verse to mean this. Like we were watching that movie one day, OMG 1, the first one. And the person, the hero, he slaps somebody and says, oh, this is an act of God. This is not by me. This is an act of God. It is not in my control that I slapped you. So is that the right understanding? Now that person was atheistic in the movie, so he has no right concepts. But as the students of Bhagavad Gita, what do you think is the right concept? Is he controlling all those things? And what do you think? Let's hear some understandings. Whoever has not shared, would you like to share? Hema Mataji, Poonam Mataji, Prinka Mataji, Namita Mataji, would you like to share? What do you think from your readings of Bhagavad Gita so far? Are we like robots that Krishna is completely controlling?
Hare Krishna Mata.
Yes, Mata.
No, we are not like a robot. Krishna says that he has given us free will also, and it's up to us to certain extent to choose what we want and what we are doing. So the choice is with us. Krishna has given that free will to us.
Yes, yes, Mataji. So there is a concept of free will.
And Krishna has given us brain. And we should use that brain also, of course, under the guidance of Krishna. But that brain should be used, I think.
Yes, but he's saying he's controlling us, right? So the brain could be controlled by him. So whatever thoughts are coming, he's giving smriti, jnanam, apohanam. So the intelligence the brain is giving, the memories brain is giving, the forgetfulness the brain is giving is coming from Krishna. So that's what we are asking, is the brain completely controlled by Krishna? And Jiva, who is trapped in this body, working as a robot, as a machine of Krishna? Or Mataji is saying we have some free will, we have some. So yes, Mataji, your point is very nice. So this is the concept of free will. And actually, this is not just Krishna. I mean, Krishna is a supreme Lord, but in other cultures also, like when I posted something before about this, the concept of free will is mentioned in Christianity, in other religions also. And we have, if you deeply study Bhagavad Gita, you would understand that actually all the religions have the same basic concepts, because they're all coming from Krishna ultimately. They're all coming from Supreme Father, Supreme Lord. So this is called free will. What that means is Krishna is supremely independent, but he has given us some independence. He has given us small or minute independence. That minute independence is called free will, which means in a certain boundaries, in a certain area, we have choices that we can make. We have our free will that we can use. So Krishna does not completely control us. He does not control us like a robot. He's not controlling us in a way when he says yantra or machine. He is guiding us, but he is not. He has given us some free will that we can exercise, and he does not influence our desires. So desires is something he does not influence in this world. He only watches those desires and he reciprocates and fulfills them according to our wish. So if, let's say, I desire to go away from him, I desire to do things against him, then if I'm really making efforts to do those things against him, then he will fulfill them. If I decide to go towards him, if I decide to make progress, then he will also help those things. So he sanctions the desires of the jiva according to his free will, according to his independence. He does not deny, he either sanctions them or denies them based on the intensity with which jiva wants those desires fulfilled, with the effort which the jiva puts into those desires. So our desires are very important. So this is the concept of free will. For example, analogy is given. There is a bull who's tied to a tree. Okay. When he's tied to the tree, he's tied. So he's controlled. He's controlled. Only his master can come and free him from the tree. But he's tied with a rope. And the rope has a certain length. So now the bull can move around the tree. He can sit down. He can sit up. He can eat from the trough. He can drink from the pot of water sitting there. He can graze on the grass there. He can sleep in that area in which the rope allows. So if the length of the rope is big, he can circumambulate in that area around the tree. So in this way, he has that independence, but it is minute independence. So similarly, we also have independence within the boundaries of this world and this body. For example, if I decide to become, a doctor or a teacher, that's upon my desires. I really start making an effort towards it. I start praying to Krishna. I want to become a teacher. I want to become a lawyer. I put effort into it. I take exams. I'm spending day and night doing this. Then Krishna will reciprocate with that desire according to my karma, according to my efforts and intention, and I will become that lawyer or teacher or whatever. So this is basically my free will that I decided to become this type of person. I decided to move to US. I really worked towards it. I put some effort. I prayed. I took blessings, and according to my karmas, according to the and Krishna sanctioned those desires, and my free will he upheld and let me come to US, let's say. But what is not in my control, there are certain things that are not in my control within this body, within this world. For example, it is said the disease is not in my control. What diseases you get, when you die, and what is the duration of your life is not in your control. Whether you lose something, lose your wealth, lose your property, lose your loved ones, lose your profession, some of those things, they are not in our control. Fame, or whether you get honored or whether you get defamed, that is not in your control. So there are those things that happen either as per the arrangement of Krishna or according to our karmas. For materialistic people, bhogi people, they happen according to their karmas. For devotees, these things, when they happen according to Krishna's arrangement. So those things are in Krishna's control. But our small, minute independence means our desires and how we work towards them, how intensely we want them fulfilled, how much effort we put into them, and those desires Krishna upholds. So Krishna does not completely control us, although he's the supreme controller. He allows Jiva his minute independence, minute free will, and he just witnesses our desires and how we use them, whether we use them to take us towards him or whether we use them to take away from Krishna. So he's calling us a machine in the terms that we are controlled by this body, we are controlled by this world, we are controlled by his arrangements and plans. But the truth is that we should become his machine, we should become his instrument, so that we can serve him. We should align our desires so that we can serve him. This is the concept of free will. Does anyone have any more understandings on this or wants to share some realizations? There is so much that can be said about this. So please share. Any questions, doubts, corrections? Let's hear from some devotees. Who is available to share? Namita Mataji, are you available to share something? Do you understand this concept?
Yes, Mataji. Free will. Yeah, definitely. I do believe that we all have free will. Not control. We're not robots controlled by anybody. And so Krishna guides us, and then we make our own. We make choices based on that, based on the learnings we learn from Krishna. So definitely, free will plays a big part in our lives. And it's the choices we make. I do believe in that. It's the choices we make. So if I'm slapping somebody, it's the choice that I'm making. Krishna is not telling me to slap him. It's my free will making that choice to do that. So that's what my understanding is. Haribo.
Yes, Mataji, this is very nicely shared. So we have choice at every moment. We have a choice to make. So whether we choose to do the right thing according to Guru Sadhu Shastra, or we decide to do the right thing or wrong thing, that is against Guru Sadhu Shastra, it's up to us. So by doing things according to Guru Sadhu Shastra, aligning our desires with them, making choices according to that, pleases Krishna, but he witnesses them. So if we make choices against Guru Sadhu Shastra, we hurt someone, we fool someone, we cheat someone, we play some games, we decide to hurt someone, then that is against Guru Sadhu Shastra, and that is displeasing to Krishna. So this next verse also, Krishna says, so to that Parmatma, so he gives the position of the Parmatma, that Parmatma who is seated next to the spirit soul, surrender unto him utterly. I want you to understand a point here. Krishna is right now asking us to surrender to the Parmatma, not to him right now. But now in a few verses, he will ask us to surrender to him, the Bhagwan. So he says, by his grace or by Parmatma's grace, you will attain peace and supreme and eternal abode. So he's telling us that Parmatma will guide you correctly. There are three reasons why Parmatma can guide us correctly. One, he is the supreme knower. So he knows the past, present, future. Krishna says in 7th chapter, Veda ham samatitani vartamanani cha Arjuna bhavishyani cha bhutani mam tu veda na kaschana. That I know the past, present, and future, everything about you. and about this world. And I know what is the best thing for you to do, which will help you in future also. So it will make your future bright. We will always want to make our future bright, but we don't have the understanding of the future. We don't know what future holds. We don't know what we should do right now so that our future will become bright. Krishna, however, has seen the future. That is why he tells in chapter 11 that the war is already won. I am going to win this war for you. All you have to do is do this action. Just fight for me. Just please me by fighting this fight. The war is already won. So he knows the future. So if we act according to his guidance, we will not fail because he is the supreme knower. We are not the supreme knower. We are very tiny knowers. We have very minute understanding and knowledge just related to our present circumstances and situation. And even that we don't know fully. Secondly, so one reason why we should take his guidance, because he's supreme knower. Second reason why we should take his guidance is because he is free of any errors, because he does not make any errors. He does not have any errors in judgment. It is said to err is human. So it is a human characteristic to make errors, to be error prone. We are the ones that are fallible. He is Achyuta. Achyuta means the one who cannot fall down. One of the names of Krishna is Achyuta, which means the one who does not fall down. So he's always Param Satya. Satyam Param Dhimahi. So he's always Param Satya, absolute truth. Whereas we only have very relative understanding. So we can make errors. We can make errors in judgment. He cannot. He's free of errors. So that is another reason. So sometimes we think Krishna did this to me. He brought this upon me, even though I've never done anything wrong. Also, he has made some error in judgment because I'm such a good person and yet this happened to me. But he actually knows your past. And so he knows that you deserve this. He knows your future. So he also knows that you needed this. So you deserve this, you needed this, and this is the right thing for you at this time. That's why he gave it to you. He does not make any errors in his judgment. So that is second aspect why we should take guidance from Parmatma. And third is he is our most, he's our only well-wisher. He's our only, other people can claim to be our well-wishers, but actually, truly, he is the only well-wisher. He is the only best friend who actually joins us, who comes with us to any type of body that we take. He's always staying with the Jivatma. He never gives up the until Jivatma goes back to Godhead, he never gives up the Jivatma. So he's always in company of Jivatma. He's the only true well-wisher. Everybody else can claim, but they are limited by their own error-prone nature, their own limitations, their own bodily conception. So they are not able to guide us the best. They can claim to be our well-wishers, but they cannot be the supreme well-wishers. Krishna says, Bhuktaram Yagyatapsam Sarvalok Maheshwaram Suhrida Sarvabhutanam Gyatva Mam Shanti Mrichati. Suhridam Sarvabhutanam. I am the friend of all living entities. Radheshyam Prabhu, His Grace Radheshyam Prabhu has written a book called Our Best Friend. So he's our best friend. Suhridam Sarvabhutanam Gyatva Mam Shanti Mrichati. So if you can just understand this point, then you will get Shanti, because you will know I am under his care, his guidance. He is the absolute truth. He cannot make any errors. He's the supreme knower. He knows my past, my present, my future. And so, and also he's my father, mother, well-wisher friend. So I'm in the best hands. And that gives them peace. So the devotees get peace from this. This is called peace formula. So Prabhupada used to call it peace formula. And then we can make correct decisions. If we look towards Parmatma for guidance, we can make right decisions. We can break the bondage of this world. We can do the right actions. We will not hurt anyone, and you can achieve the transcendence. So in this verse, that's what Krishna is saying, that look towards Parmatma and surrender unto him, and by his grace you will attain peace and supreme dharma. If you're okay, I want to read a couple more verses. We can finish off this very important portion, and then next, the most important portion will start of Bhagavad Gita, that we need a lot of time for that, so we'll leave that. Let's read these three together and we will finish off. Actually, let's just read two. 18.63. Iti te jnanamakyatam Iti te jnanam
Iti te jnanam akyatam.
Guhyat guhyataram maya. Guhyat
Guhyat
guhyataram maya.
guhyataram maya.
Maya.
Vimrishyate asheshena. Vimrishyate
Vimrishitam
asheshena.
asheshena.
Yatte chasi tatha kuru. Yatte
Yatte
chasi
chasi
tatha
tatha
kuru.
Yasi tatha
kuru.
kuru.
Let's read one more. 18.64. Sarva guhya tamam bhuya. Sarva guhya
Sarvaguhyatamam
tamam
bhuya.
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 Shृणु me paramam vacha. Shृणु
Shinu
me
me
paramam
Shinu
paramam
me
vacha.
vacha.
paramam vacha.
Ishtosi me dridam iti.
Ishtosi
Ishtosi
me
me
dranam
Tosi
dridam
me dram
iti.
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 Tato vakshami te hitam. Tato
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 vakshami
vakshami
te
te
vakshayami
hitam.
te
hitam.
thitam.
Before we read, let's take the Sanskrit a little. So this is very famous verse actually, 16.3. This is the concept of free will that we were talking about. So Krishna says now, iti te jnanam akyatam. I have told you all the knowledge that was there to know. It is a very confidential knowledge. Guhyad, amongst all the secrets, Guhya taram. So one thing to note here, he's talking about Guhya taram, not Guhya tamam. Guhya tamam is next level of um, secret knowledge or confidential knowledge. He's talking about Guhya taram, so middle level. He's saying, amongst all the secrets I have told you, a very confidential knowledge was told by me. All the knowledge I have told you. Vimrishitad asheshena. Now look at this. He's saying, think about this fully, very carefully. Asheshena. कुछ भी शेष नहीं रह जाए, कुछ भी रह ना जाए, पूरा सोचो बैठ के. Deliberate. Vimrishitad. विमर्श करो. बोलते हैं ना विचार विमर्श करना. विमर्श करो. Deliberate. Meditate upon this and completely. Asheshena. Fully. And then, yathechasi tatha kuru. This is a very famous statement by Krishna, which describes our free will. Then he tells Arjuna, and then yathechasi, whatever you तुम्हारी इच्छा हो तथा कुरु, do that. तो मैंने सारा ज्ञान दे दिया है. Now yathechasi tatha kuru. Whatever you desire, you like, you do. So this is the Sanskrit of this one. Then the next one he says, now he talks about Guhyatamam. Guhyatamam पे हम आज बात नहीं करेंगे because Guhyatamam is very Guhyatamam. We have to talk about it next time or whenever time comes. Sarva Guhyatamam Bhuya. So since you are my very dear friend, he says, Shrinu me paramam vacha. Here to my supreme instruction, which is the most confidential knowledge. The last one about Parmatma was Guhyataram. So if you are following the progress, Krishna talked about Brahman platform, liberated platform. Then he talked about Parmatma aspect. Now he will come to Bhagwan aspect. We will not go into Bhagwan aspect yet. Bhagwan is the Guhyatamam knowledge. He talked about Guhyataram knowledge right now. So Guhya, Guhyataram, Guhyatamam. This is the progression of the confidential knowledge. So he says, now, since you are very dear to me, my dear friend, I'm telling you this supreme instruction, this most confidential knowledge, and this is for your benefit. I am telling you, tato vakshyami te hitam. This is for your benefit that I'm speaking. So this is not for my benefit, this is for your benefit. Just like a parent. This is not for me, this is for you. Now, with this understanding, let's read the two translations. Who wants to read these two?
Mataji, I can read.
Yes, Mataji.
34. Thus, text 63. Thus, I have explained to you knowledge still more confidential. Deliberate on this fully and then do what you wish to do. Text 64. Because you are my very dear friend, I'm speaking to you my supreme instruction, the most confidential knowledge of all. Hear this from me, for it is for your benefit. Hari Bol.
Hari Bol. So he said, I have explained this knowledge that is still more confidential. Guhyataram. So Brahman liberation was the first thing. Now I told you about Parmatma. Take his guidance, surrender to him, and do what you want. Then he says, because you're my very dear friend, let me tell you the most confidential aspect also of this knowledge for your benefit. So here, a few things to understand. Krishna says, Vimarshyatad asheshena, that deliberate on this fully. That's why whenever we hear these classes, hear any Harikatha, really we should meditate on them. That is one of the process of smaranam. or we should chew on that. We should chew on that knowledge. We should do mananam. So we should really internalize that knowledge, try to absorb it, imbibe it, think about what I heard or what I read. If you're reading a book, if you're hearing a class, think about what I read, what I heard, and how can I apply this? Can I make some changes? What does Krishna mean by this? Are there some realizations coming, some reflections that I have, and write them down and share them with people and elaborate on them. And that is called mananam. That is the process of mananam, deliberating on that knowledge, meditating on that knowledge. So chew on that knowledge, he says. And then he says, after deliberation, do what you wish to do. So he leaves it up to us. This is a very important point because Krishna wants us to love him, right? The goal is to reach bhakti yoga or love and devotional service. Can love happen with force? Can you make someone love you?
No, not at all.
Not at all, right? It is an internal matter. It has to come from within. It has to come spontaneously. It has to arise from within. It is an internal matter. It cannot be forced out of anyone. This is a principle of love. So for love, there has to be a choice. And that is why we have the choice. That is why we have the free will. So Krishna has given us that independence, that free will, that free will to make choices because he wants us to choose him. So we have been given this choice between Krishna and Maya, between the body and to understand our soul, the self-realization. So for love to happen, there has to be a choice. If there is no choice, that's not love. So this is the difference between, also we talked about a few classes back, servant versus slave. Servants have a choice. They serve out of love, out of affection, out of care for someone. Whereas a slave serves out of being forced into it. So slaves are being forced into it. They are being intimidated or threatened or pushed into doing something. So we don't practice slavery. Krishna wants us to become his servant. He wants us to love him. He wants us to advance through the ladder of servitude and then finally reach our position of Sakhya Bhav or Madhurya Bhav or Vatsalya Bhav and love. And so love has to come from within. So that's why Krishna does not interfere with that minute independence that we have. That's why he tells Arjuna, I have given you this knowledge now, yathechasi tatha kuru. Use your discrimination. Discrimination is called Vivek Buddhi. So intelligence can be of many types. It can be Krur Buddhi, it can be Ku Buddhi, Dur Buddhi. But the Vivek Buddhi is the intelligence of discrimination that leads us towards Krishna. So to act according to the super soul, act according to the guidance of Guru Sadhu Shastra, that is called Vivek Buddhi or discrimination. So Krishna or Bhagavad Gita does not force us to do anything. It does not enforce any rules on us. It just inspires us to follow things. It does not impose. It gives options. Krishna gives options. Krishna gives options, a best option, worst option, and everything in between. And the consequences of each option he keeps giving us. So that we have 1 through 10, all the options. Jnana yoga chahiye, karma yoga chahiye, dhyan yoga chahiye, ashtanga yoga chahiye, bhakti yoga chahiye. You want to just give into the to this world. You want to come to me. You want to come to demigods. You want to go to Parmatma. You just want to be liberated. He gives so many options, and consequence of each option also he gives. So he gives just knowledge, but he just guides us. He just gently encourages us, but not imposes on us, not forces us. That is love. And the next verse he says, I will tell you that. So the next 64th verse is just a connecting verse between this Guhyataram knowledge and the Guhyatamam knowledge. He says that I will give you the best knowledge coming up. So that is coming up. And those are the beautiful verses. Man mana bhavmat bhakto. And then he talks about sarva dharman parityaja. If you feel inspired, next time we won't be able to have class. So if you feel inspired, we have 2 weeks. Please try to memorize 18.65 and 66. Manmana bhavmat bhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru. I'll put it on the screen. Mam evashyasi satyam te pratijano priyosi me. Then he said, let me show you. 18.65 is this one. This verse is so important that it comes twice. Almost similarly, it comes twice. Similar verse comes twice in this Bhagavad Gita, in chapter 9 and now chapter 18. And then he talks about the key verse, the ascents, the concluding verse of Bhagavad Gita. It is not the last verse, but it is called conclusion because this is the ascents. Sarva dharman parityaja mamekam sharanam vraja aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshayishami ma shucha. Whoever does not know these two verses, please try to memorize them. And even if we don't discuss them, even if we just keep saying these to ourselves over and over again, and everybody just wants to recite these verses, I'm okay with that for the time after. In verse 63, yathechasi tatha kuru. Another one last point that I wanted to make as devotees, and you're all going to have a celebration next Saturday where we will meet many different people that may not be devotees, that may not be following any path of self-realization, that may just want to enjoy, have fun. So remember, Krishna gives choice to everyone. So sometimes as devotees, when we come into this knowledge, we try to impose or force this knowledge on people. But actually, we should just guide them. We should just inspire them. We should just gently encourage and show with our behavior, with our conduct, and not really force people to accept Krishna, because that Krishna wants them to, we can just guide them. We can just put them in touch with Krishna. We can just put them in the contact with Bhagavad Gita, give them prasadam, let them hear some katha, some pastimes of the Lord, name, form, qualities of the Lord. Just let them hear some kirtan and Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Let that purify them. We don't need to become too heavy with people. Just be patient, tolerant. The reason devotees sometimes, try to push, try to guide, is because they feel compassion, they feel mercy on these souls that are not in contact with Bhagavad Gita and Krishna, and missing out on so much fun, so much nectar, so much internal realizations that we are getting on a daily basis, the internal reciprocation that we are getting with Krishna on a daily basis. So devotees just want to share that with everyone, and they want everyone to feel that love of Krishna, that reciprocation of Krishna, those exchanges that they are having on a daily basis with Krishna, the internal meditation on the shams in the form of Krishna that they're able to have. They just want to share some. So that's why they don't want people to waste their precious time. That's why devotees become sometimes heavy. But we should just gently guide them, show the path so that they can plow on the path. But ultimately, it's every man to himself. So you say, do as you wish, just like Krishna told Arjuna, yathechasi tatha kuru. Once somebody asked me that we are very skeptical, we are very doubtful, we don't know what to do. There are so many paths. There is this temple, that temple. Whenever I visit someone, then they start calling me, they start following up, they start texting, and they're all the same. So and that sounded like they were distracted by that call or text that they get as a follow-up later on. So to that, my answer was that, just like a doctor or a nurse calls you after discharge, like when I do surgery on my patients, right? Once they are discharged, either me or my nurse calls them after a few days to check on them after a surgery. We check on them. Is your wound healing good? Are you taking precautions? Are you following some restrictions that I told you about? Are you cleaning the incision? Are you taking your medicines? Are you moving up and about? There are certain things we talk about after a few days with them, right? Why? Because we want them to get better. We want them to heal properly. We don't want them to suffer if things go bad because they didn't take proper precautions. Similarly, when a jiva wanders into a temple, it is very rare for a jiva to wander into the temple. Jivas just want to enjoy in this world. So rare for any jiva to seek self-realization and purification, and when they, or service or detachment. So when they come to the temple and devotees see, oh, this jiva is interested in self-realization, they want to serve, they want to seek purification, they want connection with the Supreme Lord, they want to connect. So let's then they like to follow up with those jivas to keep them motivated, to make them get better. Like after a surgery, hey, we gave you Harinam, are you chanting that? We gave you books, are you reading them? We told you to eat prasad, are you cooking prasad? Are you offering bhoga to your deity? Are you thinking about Krishna a little? That's why they follow. So to keep them motivated, so that those people don't fall back into the material garbage. Because devotees have something very rare, very beautiful to share with the world. And just like we like to share a good movie that we saw, a good book that we read, good restaurant that we ate at. So similarly, this is the best. This is not just some good of this world. This is the best that they have experienced in their life, and they've experienced both the worlds. They have experienced material world and spiritual world. So they're very eager to share. Hey, we have done everything that you were doing, but now this is more. This is next level of enjoyment, next level of happiness, next level of peace. Why don't you try this? So that's why they want to share, just like you want to share a good movie or restaurant. So, but keep these things in mind when you're, but still be patient, still be tolerant. Everybody's on a journey, and they're in different levels of journey. As long as nobody's disconnected from Krishna by what you say or do, as long as nobody gets completely lost or falls away from the path of Krishna, then you're okay. But just gently guide them towards Krishna. Hari Bol, that's all I have to share. Anybody else wants to add or share their realizations, reflections? Any doubts, any corrections? Nirbhay Prabhu, you want to share something?
Hare Krishna. Not much to share. Yeah, very nice discussion, very important discussion today. I know we discussed the example when we were talking about free will of the bull and the walking around in a stake. Did we talk about the airplane example? Not sure.
I did not, because I was waiting for you to share that.
Okay. So that's just another way to understand it. That the concept of free will, because it can be a confusing concept sometimes. And even though we may say it that we theoretically sometimes we can understand it, it can be difficult when somebody poses a question to us, or in terms of our own life when we are trying to make a decision, how do we apply it? So that is the application really of it, is what we have to focus on as devotees, that how do we take this challenge that we have to dovetail our efforts by trying to hear more and more, listening to the voice of Parmatma, and using our free will to follow what Krishna wants us to do. So we were just listening to this, or I'm just forgetting as to where I heard this. Or did you just say it just now? Sorry, about that. Our prayer should be that we should ask for Krishna. How can we dovetail what we want as to what you will? Is that the right wording? Nārangi?
Yeah, this was one of the disciples of Prabhupada who said that our prayer should be that may my desires always be aligned with your desires.
Yes.
To Krishna,
So okay. So that's when we are listening to Paramatma, then we can align our desires to Krishna's desire. But again, so I just again establishing what we are talking about, and to understand this concept of free will. Another example that is given is let's say we sit on a flight from here to Memphis to Phoenix or whatever, right? So now we have come to the airport, we have boarded the flight. Once we are on the flight, we have 3 hours. So that is our situation, that based upon our past karmas and all the things that have led us to a certain point, we get into a certain situation. Now, what we do in that situation is up to us. So now that you're on the flight is taking off. Now those 3 hours you have, or if you're going to India, you have like 14, 20 hours or whatever. Now, what you do on that flight is up to you. So that is the example of free will, that you know that you have boarded this flight and you're going to end up at the final destination. So you are in Memphis, you are going to go to Phoenix, or you're in Memphis, you're going to go eventually to Delhi. So that is out of your hand. The final destination in this example is out of your hand. But what you're doing in that flight, in that 20 hours, you can chant, you can read, you can watch a movie. So all that is the free will we have. So that is another way to understand this. that based upon our past karmas, past things that have happened, certain things are there that are predetermined, pre-decided. But still, we have the choice as to what to do now that we are in a particular situation. Hare Krishna, just wanted to share that.
Hare Krishna, thank you. Yeah, I was waiting for you to share that actually. I know you always like to. Yeah, that's a very nice analogy in the airplane. What you do with your time? Somebody's wasting their time drinking alcohol or watching a movie, but you're, let's say, chanting or you're doing something. So that's how you have the free will. The last point that I made about Yathechasi Tatha Guru, that people have choice, and as devotees, we should also give choices when we are preaching, when we are trying to introduce people to this path of Bhagavad Gita. Let me ask a question very quickly and then we'll wrap up. So is it that now people have many doubts? A lot, people are very skeptical. They have suffered so much. They have been hurt. You have to understand, people have been hurt by many people that were very close to them. So it's no wonder that they're very skeptical. The faith is very less. The faith is they're very doubtful. They're full of doubts. So let's say if we have doubts, there can be minor doubts, some questions. Does that mean we have to clear all our doubts, have all our questions answered before we take to the path of self-realization, before we start following a tradition or connect ourselves to the devotees or connect ourselves to the sampradaya? All the doubts and questions need to go away before we take a guru, accept a, get accepted by a guru. What is your understanding? I just want to know.
Mataji, can I share mine?
Yes, Mataji.
I don't think everything needs to be answered before you connect, because once you start the journey, you start getting the better understanding, and I think slowly and slowly those doubts get cleared. So initially everything doesn't need to be. First you get to connect, you start following it, and with time, I think those get answered and you get more clarity.
Haribol, yes, Mataji, exactly. So yes, there will always be doubts. There will, because Maya is always going to try to distract us and take us towards her. And also our previous memories, previous understandings, experiences, previous pains, sentiments, all those are not going to go away quickly. So there will always be doubts, questions, but we should try to get them answered as much, but we should not grab onto them or let them hinder our progress. We should start the progress, keep them aside for now, and as we start following the path, actually you will see all those doubts that you kept will start getting answered. Sometimes this is what happens to me. I attend a class and I have many questions on the topic, but I have questions on the topic without hearing the class. So if I just heard the class, a lot of my questions, especially those that were very minor doubts and questions, will get answered. That is why it is said, just wait. Let me finish this thought. Let me, the speakers always say this, let me wrap this up and then still see if you have any questions. Or patient comes to me and I'm just telling, I've not described the surgery to them, but they're full of doubts and they start bombarding those questions. Let me explain the whole process and the everything to you, and then let's see if you have any doubts after that. So you just enter into it, you just enter into the process, you start praying, you start depending on the devotees and the Lord, and ask for guidance from the Lord and from devotees. Show dependence. That dependence is surrender. Even if your doubts are there, they're typically not very important, not very significant. They're mundane mostly, for most of the doubts that I've seen that are holding people back. It happened to me. That's why I know this. And then just start working towards the Lord. Start some services, start chanting, start reading and hearing, and Lord will reveal, He will unfold His plans for you. He will unfold the full picture and kill all the doubts. So the whole puzzle will get cleared up, the whole puzzle will form. But start making the puzzle, He will reveal everything slowly. But it doesn't mean that, oh, every single doubt of mine needs to be cleared up and I'm just going to stay skeptical throughout my whole life, because then we are wasting time. Start advancing, and the process is so nectarian that that process will just completely absorb you so much that the doubts and all will just fall off. They'll just fall off. So that's another point I wanted to make in. Okay, any other realizations, questions, reflections? If not, we'll stop and we'll chant one round of Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Thank you everyone for joining. Vancha kautarudesya kripa sindhave vacha padatanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo Chandraya Radhikaya Tadale Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tadbhaktaya Namo Granth Raj Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki Jai. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna.
Krishna.
All glories, all glories, all glories to Guru and Varanga.